You can start it whenever. In fact, we are live right now. So thank you, everybody, for joining us and for checking out the live stream here on the Facebook page. You are either watching us on the Infinity Sports Facebook page, RTF, or maybe YouTube Live, one way or the other. I'm going to kick things off here with our video intro, and then we will jump right into it. We got a lot to go over.
Jordan. Oh, a spectacular move by Michael Jordan. Drives one out to deep left field. This one's got a chance to get out of here. Gone! Three-run Jimmy Jack first big league home run for Mike Trout.
Pass is intercepted at the goal line by Malcolm Butler.
And an 81-point game. 55 in the second half. Ladies and gentlemen, you have witnessed the second greatest scoring performance in NBA history.
What's up, everybody, and thank you for joining us. I am back, so it is back to the pros here. We had the Joes on Monday, and we got the pros today. I'm Wayne G. In case you didn't know, our names are right here. I'm joined by Dan Sully Sullivan, my usual co-host.
Hey, how we doing, folks? What's poppin'? I know it's the backwards thing is so hard to do.
So, obviously, if you're watching us, I mentioned it before we went to the video. You are probably watching us on Facebook, but we are also available on iTunes, Spotify, and Stitcher. Now, that's the audio versions because on the RTF Sports Network, soon to be the All ACCS Network, we are going to be broadcast at 1 p.m. on Tuesdays and Thursdays, but they only play for an hour. So if our show runs a little bit over, you might miss some stuff. Check us out on the podcast pages or YouTube to see the video. I highly recommend checking out the video because we got a lot of visual stuff.
Yeah, most definitely. Plus, you get to look at my beautiful face. You know, you can't go wrong with that. So, you know, I get it. You get the luscious voices with the audio, but the video is so much better.
Yeah, for sure. And if you wanted to interact with us, we are available on Facebook at Infinity Sports Podcast, Instagram at Infinity Sports Podcast, and Twitter at Sports Infinity 5. Very interactive. We do take your questions. You can actually send us questions right now, no matter what platform you're watching on, and we will post them on the screen and reply to them if they are, replyable. You can also check out infinitysportspodcast.com. That is the official show website. We have access to all of our social media, all of the podcast links, as well as a store where you can get great Infinity Sports merchandise. 12 is greater than 9 is a popular thing, as well as our Sully collection right now, which is just the one shirt. I mean, I say one shirt. You can get sweatshirts, you can get T-shirts, you can get whatever you want, but it's the gold jacket, green jacket. Who gives a shit? One of his favorite movie sayings. I was trying to come up with some of my favorite movie sayings to see if we could just do a bunch of movie sayings. And the one I thought of that I love is from The Princess Bride, and it's Prince Humperdinck, also the voice of Jack Skellington. His name is Chris Sarandon. And he says in the movie, he's on the horse, and he goes, "Unless I'm wrong, and I'm never wrong."
That is a great shirt for you, man. Great movie, too, by the way. Fantastic. That movie's got probably 1,000 quotes you could pull from it, quite honestly.
It's in my top 5 of all-time favorites.
I mean, it should be. It's brilliant. It's comedy. It's action. It's such a great movie. It really is.
There was a point, actually, where I knew by heart, from the time that he's helping Wesley, Indigo's helping Wesley up from the cliffs, all the way through him fighting all the 3 different people. I used to know all the lines by heart.
Really? That's a little intense.
There's so many just hilarious lines, and I mean that are subtle. I mean, just subtle, hilarious lines. And so I think of the line when he first sees Andre the Giant, he's kind of coming up the hill, and that rock explodes against another rock, and he pulls a sword out. Andre says, "I did that on purpose. I don't have to miss." I believe you.
Yeah, exactly. 100. That movie's so fantastic. It's so good. The fight scene that you mentioned when Rodrigo fights the main character, and then there's randomly a metal bar that they swing on in the rock. That makes me so happy. It really does. Every time I see that, I just die laughing.
Well, and that's where I do, and I think I've done it in previous episodes, my Wallace Shawn impersonation is that scene where Indigo, he's kind of kill him when he gets up to the top. Otherwise, if he falls, whatever. Mm-hmm. And Indigo says to Vizzini, who's Wallace Shawn, he says, "I shall do him left-handed." And Vizzini goes, "You know what a hurry we're in."
God, that movie's. Now I'm going to have to go watch that movie again just to relive it.
So we do have a big show, a lot of stuff to get to today. We're going to talk a little bit of NBA, a little bit of NHL, and then we're going to go through a bunch of NFL games. We got all the spreads, we got all the over-unders, and we're going to see how good Sully can do against me, probably a lot better than me because I'm doing a lot of guessing.
I'm crushing it, man. I'm crushing right now. I don't think I've missed a pick on this show other than the over-unders, which I admittedly hate. I think I've told most people to stay away from them anyway, but I'm crushing these spreads right now, baby. Just ride the Sully train right now.
That's right. Bet whatever he's telling you to.
Yeah.
So that will lead us into one of our favorite segments, the news. So the news, we usually jump right into this day in history. I wanted to do a little bit different this time. We actually talk about a couple of news things, then we'll get into this day in history and then the scores and whatnot. Mm-hmm. But the number one news thing, I think, obviously, one of the biggest stories in sports, I got this thing, Gale Sayers passes away today, 77 years old, one of the greatest running backs of all time. Obviously, it's sad. I mean, he was 77, so he lived a pretty good life. I mean, that's not terribly old, but I guess they said he was living with dementia. So
for a football player, that's hella old.
Yeah, super old. It's running back too.
Yeah.
But no, I think the thing was funny is I was trying to find a video to kind of intro that instead of just the screen image. And when I was trying to find videos of Gale Sayers, I highly recommend anybody go watch video of Gale Sayers and him playing because he was Barry Sanders, like before Barry Sanders. Like his juke moves and his stop on a dime and cut back was insane.
He would 100% be able to play today, in my opinion. He had the ability to be maybe not an every down, but he would 100% be a crazy, insane good pass catching specialist at the running back position right now. And the way you could put him in, and he could do so many things. Let's not forget he was a tremendous kick and punt returner also. I mean, he was extremely versatile. Gale Sayers' game was something that was truly special. It really was.
And we talk about, statistics and whatnot. Gale Sayers was injured a lot of his career. That's one of the big knocks on him. And if you look at his stats, though, and his averages, he averaged 5 yards per carry. And to give you an idea, obviously, Walter Payton averaged 4.4. Emmitt Smith averaged 4.2. And, Barry Sanders averaged 5. But like I said, those two running styles, if you were to put Barry Sanders on one screen and Gale Sayers on the other, their running styles are so similar to each other.
Oh, for sure. They definitely mimic each other. And, they're just elusive is the word. When you think you've got a guy bottled up and he gets out, that is Barry Sanders and Gale Sayers to a T. They're both so extremely elusive. And if you speaking of movies, if you haven't seen Brian's Song, you're slipping. Go watch it.
You got to see Brian's Song. It's one of the make guys cry movies.
Oh, easy. I mean, you bawl like a little weeping baby in that movie.
And I put up, I think Field of Dreams is another one. Like those movies you just see, and it's funny because again, I'm thinking of another movie, and I could do movies all day long, but getting into another movie is Sleepless in Seattle, right?
I've actually never seen it.
Oh, so it's a funny movie. Obviously, that's the first movie I think that Meg Ryan and Tom Hanks did together. Then they did You Got Mail, whatever. Yeah. But Sleepless in Seattle, basically, Tom Hanks is widowed, and Meg Ryan is engaged or whatever, but they live basically a country apart from each other. She's like New York, he's in California or Oregon, Seattle, something like that. And basically she hears him on a radio show kind of talking about his wife who had passed, and she kind of just almost like falls in love with him without ever seeing him.
Oh, wow.
So anyways, there's a scene where they're talking about the movie The Love Affair with is it Warren Beatty? I can't remember, but where the people meet on the top of the Empire State Building, and they're talking about, and these girls start crying. I think it's Meg Ryan and her friend, who might be Rosie O'Donnell. I can't remember. But they're talking, and they're crying, talking about the movie. And Tom Hanks and his friend, who I think was played by Rob Reiner, like they just like look at each other like, that's a chick flick, And they're like, oh, come on. Like, you guys don't get emotional about movies? And they're like, well, I mean, The Dirty Dozen. And then somebody's like, yeah, well, who doesn't? And then they start crying, like, when he's throwing the grenades down the chimney.
I love Tom Hanks too, so I honestly have to check it out. I don't mind, watching, not action or whatever, like just standard kind of rom-com movies. So I'll definitely have to check it out.
Back to the news, I guess a little sidetrack. The thing that you'd sent me, I didn't see it, but you sent me that the San Diego Chargers, LA Chargers, that before the game, that we got cracked ribs here for Tyrod Taylor, which is why the rookie there got to start, Dennis Herbert, right?
Yeah, Justin Herbert.
Justin Herbert. So he gets the start, and the whole game they're talking about how Taylor had these cracked ribs. Well, come to find out, I guess he was getting a shot to get rid of the pain for the cracked ribs, and they punctured his lung when they're giving him the shot.
Yes, the own team doctor punctured the player's lung. And honestly, now the team doctors and medical staff is recommending he sits out the season indefinitely. So they are now recommending he sits out the entire season.
So
this is insane. The lawsuit that I would bring upon, there's got to be something he can do. Now, I don't know, truly what he can do, but there's got to be something. Apparently, this doctor has a long history. He lost his surgical license in 2017. He was raided by the FBI for writing himself 108 prescriptions, all kinds of shit. And somehow he's a team doctor for an NFL team. It blows my mind. I don't know how this happened.
See, it makes sense to me because I feel like the NFL is all about cover-ups, covering up everything. And so you want to get a guy who's shady to kind of do all the shady stuff for you. And I personally think giving a guy with cracked ribs an injection so he can play and get hit in the ribs is pretty shady.
But at the same time, I mean, you have to understand, you've been an athlete. You would go out there and do the same thing. Honestly, let's be real. Tyrod Taylor probably asked for the shot and said, hey, my ribs hurt. I can play. Just numb the pain and I'm good. So I get it that it's kind of a shady principle, but I mean, let's not be real. The player wasn't deceived. Nobody was being deceived in the whole situation. So I don't think he's also a grown man. So it's not like a high school situation, so.
But the medical staff is there to protect the players from themselves.
Agreed.
It's I think of that the image. Remember, it was Penn State. I think it was when the quarterback got his bell rung, and then they left him in the game, and he was walking in the wrong direction.
Yeah,
But I bet you he wanted to play. But it's the medical staff's job to say, "Listen, man."
Yes, I don't disagree there. I mean, to be fair, the doctor probably gave him. The doctor's has to have your best interest at heart too, but he can't force you to actually do anything medically. You know what I mean? And I think that's kind of the situation here. Obviously, a quarterback playing with cracked ribs is not a good, mix of things to happen. He's most likely going to get re-injured. But I mean, the lack of care to puncture somebody's lung is just, I can't fathom that.
I don't know. Like I say, I told my wife that he's probably not the team doctor anymore. But
and I'm terrified of needles too, so this just cements that more into my brain.
The last bit of sports news that I had, I thought this was actually a fantastic hire, and this kind of leads into our Infinity 5 later. Billy Donovan getting hired as the head coach of the Chicago Bulls. I love this hire.
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, I don't think he should have been fired in OKC.
It was a mutual parting of ways.
Okay, I didn't see that. I think he was a terrific coach. I mean, shit, I'm living in Gator gear right now, so obviously I'm going to sound a little biased, but I think Billy Donovan is tremendous. I think it's extremely hard to make the leap from college to the pros, and I think he's been very successful at it. I think he's a good X's and O's. I think he's a good players coach. I don't think he's great, you know what I mean? But I agree. I think it's a great hire, and I mean the young talent on that Chicago team, I think, is in for a great uplift with Coach Donovan here.
Now, I think it was the Soup Boss actually asked me. He said, what do you think now happens with Zach LaVine? Does he continue to build around Zach LaVine, or do they move him? And I said this is a kind of a running joke with us because Brandon on his show Triple Shot Sports has way or no way, and I like to say kind of way. I don't have other questions. And this was a very kind of way thing where I think that obviously you want to try to build around Zach LaVine because he's a tremendous talent. But at the same time, the rest of your team is 1 or 2 years in the league. So if somebody's willing to offer you a top 5 pick or a top 10 pick, you got to listen to that. I mean,
not only that, do we really think Zach LaVine's like a centerpiece of a franchise? I mean, I think so. I don't. I don't view him as that. I think he's a great player. I think he's a Chris Middleton. I think he's a cusp. I think he's maybe a top 25 at best, top 30 guy. I don't think that's who you build a team around personally. I think you want to try and go out and get a top 15 guy if you can, or try to have a top 15 guy. I think that's the only way you can be really, truly competitive. And again, like you said, obviously if a team offers you the world for him, you snap take it.
Well, I'm not even thinking the world. I'm just thinking if you can get a young college player coming into the draft, just continue building on that youth. And you think about like teams like Minnesota, right? Minnesota's got the number 1 overall pick. No, I'm not saying a straight up trade. The one, I mean, you'd have to probably Chicago would have to send back some first round picks too, but I like Zach LaVine with D'Angelo Russell and Karl Anthony Towns. I mean, that would make a nice little team.
Oh, that'd be a great little trio there. I mean, see, but that's the thing is they've got Karl Anthony Towns, who's a top 15 player. You know what I mean? So it doesn't put the onus and all the weight on Zach LaVine's shoulders.
All right. Now, that leads us into our This Day in History, and I didn't really do any graphics for This Day in History, so I was very lazy with the graphics going into this episode. But that said, I still have some great This Day in History, starting off with my favorite one, which is I have September 20th, 1973, the Battle of the Sexes. Billie Jean King beats Bobby Riggs 6-3, 6-3, 6-3. This was a huge, huge deal because Bobby Riggs was the number 1 ranked player in the world back in like 1947, 48, 49. And this took place in 73. He was 55 years old.
Yes.
But the thing was,
not a lot of people know that, by the way, so I'm glad you said that.
He actually, and at first I wanted to use that against her in a way, but the reality was that this all came about because Bobby Riggs had said that women are so bad that a 55-year-old like him could beat the number 1 women's player. And he wanted to play Billie Jean King, and she declined, so he played some other woman, beat her 6-2, 6-2. And then Billie Jean King said, all right, I will play you now, because she was like the number 1 or number 2 ranked player in the world.
Yeah.
So it was kind of like if you had Jimmy Connors today playing against Serena Williams, Serena
Williams would dog him.
So, it was an unfair matchup in a way, but I understand it did great things for, Title 8 and all these things like women's it was great. But I do think that it gets a little overboard with the fact, like you said, he's 55, she was 28, 29 in her prime. So let's not make it out like if Serena Williams beat Roger Federer, that would be nuts. I think Roger Federer would demolish Serena Williams.
Even right now. Now, Roger Federer isn't 55, but he is on the twilight of his career. I agree. And I'm glad you mentioned that point because it does – you have to put it in context. You really do. I think, Bobby Riggs was spouting off at the mouth and got what he deserved and got his comeuppance. At the same time, I don't think the number 1 women's player in the world would ever beat the number 1 men's player in the world. So was that his initial point or his overlying point? Who knows? But regardless, I honestly, I think Serena beat a lot of, top 15 guys, if I'm being honest.
I think she'd have a hard time with the 50th ranked guy.
See, I don't know, man. She hits with power and plays with power. I think the standard woman would. I really do because of the power separation. I don't think tennis is like that different of a game. Like the women can stay there agility wise and things, but the power is where I think it would be different. Serena comes with power. So
she comes with power, but the big difference is going to be that she comes with power and a lot of her competitors don't. So to be faced with somebody who does, I think that would pose a problem for her. And when I say power, I don't mean serves. Obviously the serves are a little bit different. She serves are hard. I'm talking like a
forehand cross court or something.
I'm thinking backhand, like a backhand cross court.
Same thing.
Yeah, a guy can put mega spin on it and tons of power. Now, nobody that she plays against can hit the ball to the corner from this corner like a man can.
Yeah.
And I'm talking like this is the 50th ranked man, whoever it is, Jonathan Yazvanovich or something. Right? He
could have gone Jonathan Isner, and you would have been right.
Yeah, all right. So, she would have a really, really, really hard time. And that kind of leads into the discussion that my wife hates. My wife hates this discussion, which is that men are better than women at sports. It's not sexist to say that. It's just true. Our bodies are built different. We're physically stronger. We're faster. We jump higher. We do everything athletically better. And I say that and I say, there are things that I do believe, honestly, that women are better than men at. I do believe that. But sports is not one of them. And so when I see like these things like, well, the highest paid WNBA player makes $250,000 and, Steph Curry gets $250,000 per shot or something like that. Well, that's the way it should be because the NBA generates $10 billion a year. The WNBA is almost bankrupt.
I agree. And flip that, though, to men's soccer and women's soccer. And I agree that women should be paid more than men in soccer because in this specific instance, they're generating more revenue. They win more games. They win more titles. They should be paid more. So it's not like I'm only siding with the men here. But I 100% agree with you. Men are built to be physical. We're built to be stronger, faster, bigger, everything like that, just naturally. So I don't think it's, like you said, I don't think it's sexist at all to say we're better at sports.
Well, international women's soccer does better than international men's soccer.
Specifically, that's what I mean. US, right. I did say U.S. I said U.S. men's and U.S. women's.
But I'm saying they shouldn't get paid more. Like Kristen Pulisic should make more than anybody on the women's team because he plays over for SC Barcelona, wherever he plays for.
He does. He gets paid for by them. What I mean is the U.S. national team pays for their own players. They pay their own players. The U.S. women's team generates more revenue and wins infinitely more titles than the U.S. men's team. We're the number one women's team in the world. That team should be paid more than the men's national team, in my opinion. Christian Pulisic makes his money from his club team, not from the national team.
Right.
So he shouldn't get paid more from his national team. When he wins a fucking World Cup, I'll pay him a ton of money. How about that? By the way, I love Christian Pulisic. He's a god. U.S. soccer, we never talk about it, so I'm going to spit a little bit. We are really good. Gio Reyna's a stud. We've got a lot of talent in the back. I'm telling you, U.S. soccer is on the come up, folks.
I'm really excited to see. Is it Destis? I think is somebody I'm excited. He's like the 17-year-old or the 18-year-old that they got. I think he plays abroad as well, but he's like 17 and he's on the U.S. national team.
There's a bunch. There's a kid, I can't pronounce his name, De La Fuente, who plays for Barca, who plays for the U.S. national team. There's a ton. We're actually really, really, really good now. Gio Reyna plays for Borussia Dortmund and is a consistent starter and balls out. And he's 19 or 20. They're so young.
Also on this day in history, September 20th, 1987, Walter Payton scores his 107th rushing touchdown. He would finish his career with 110. That is fifth all-time. Do you know the four players ahead of him?
In just rushing?
Rushing touchdowns.
Emmitt Smith.
Mm-hmm.
Jerome Bettis.
Nope.
Curtis Martin?
Nope.
All right.
LaDainian Tomlinson.
Yeah.
Marcus Allen.
Wow, that's one I would have never gotten.
Adrian Peterson.
Ah.
Yeah. So
damn, I would have thought Frank Gore or Curtis Smart would have been snuck up there, but
so Barry Sanders has 99 rushing touchdowns in his career. Emmitt Smith had 164. Now, I only bring that up. I'm not trying to say Emmitt Smith is better than Barry Sanders, but there's a lot of Emmitt Smith versus Barry Sanders debate in the world. And I feel like a lot of the Barry Sanders people, who they should think that he's better, really crap on Emmitt Smith, and he is an all-time great running back. I don't care about his offensive line. I think you put Emmitt Smith in Detroit, he still runs for 1,000 yards every year.
I'd love to see that. I'm not the biggest Emmitt Smith fan.
He's a gator.
No, I know, but I mean, just in that, I don't have him in my top 5 running backs of all time.
Wow.
He is in my top 10, so don't lose your minds, folks. But he's not in my top 5. I have LT, Marshall Faulk, Barry Sanders, Jim Brown, and
Peyton?
God, there's going to be one more. What? Yeah, Walter Payton. Yeah, Walter Payton. Take your choice. Walter Payton. I'm a big Earl Campbell fan too. So I don't. He's right there on that cusp. It's just for me, he's not in the top 5, but that doesn't take away from his greatness. The game he had with his separated shoulder. The amount of pain he had to be going through and to still ball out like that, and consistency. I don't care. If you try to hate on it, but the guy just came every year and just did his thing. I don't care if he had an all-pro line. He was a stud. I agree.
And I do want to correct a lot of the Barry Sanders people who don't know football, which is a lot of them.
Most people don't know football. Let's be real.
Yeah. But they'll say, "Oh well, Barry Sanders didn't have a great offensive line." Barry Sanders had perennial Pro Bowlers. Glover and Lomas Brown
was a stud. He used to throw people around. Lomas Brown was a stud.
But the problem with Barry Sanders wasn't his offensive line; it was the fact that he never one season played with a Pro Bowl quarterback. His quarterbacking was just junk.
Awful. It was terrible. It's what the Bears are going through now.
No, 2-0. All right, so we got September 22nd, 1911. Cy Young gets his final win of his career, number 511. I think we agreed that's probably not going to get broken.
Who's the active leader in wins right now?
Oh, active. I bet you it's 179.
Exactly, that's what I mean. MLB active wins leaders. I have to. Bartolo Colon with 247.
Yeah, he's done.
Yeah, and then Justin Verlander, who just had Tommy John's at 226. And then beyond that, it's Greinke at 208. So nobody is even close to touching that record.
Now, the one area where I could see it actually being broken, because you know how baseball is always kind of evolving and doing weird things, right? Is if you had one of those situations where you just have starters pitch 3 innings and then you kind of have nothing but relief pitchers, and then that guy who pitched 3 innings
qualify for a win.
Well, they would change it because you can't qualify for the win.
You have to change the word? Ruling is what you mean? Oh, okay.
Because let's say I go in and he plays for 3 innings and he goes up 2-0, right? And then you've got 6 relievers come in and none of them give up a run. Who do you give the win to? It's got to be the guy that pitched 3 innings, right?
No, it's the guy who came in after that guy.
Even though he pitched 1 inning?
Yeah.
He gets the win. So that guy then gets 500 wins because he's coming in and getting the win every year.
I mean, that's really hard to do, though, because then you're dependent on 5 other guys doing their job every night.
Let's see here. Comments. Let's see. What we got here? Shago Bonds. Hey, Sully. You find the chicken place?
I did find a chicken place. So I'm up in Tallahassee, and I can't find any fried chicken to save my life. If you are from the Tallahassee area, don't say Guthrie's. Don't say Lindy's. Guthrie's is not a chicken place. It's just chicken tenders. They don't sell bone-in chicken. That's not a chicken place. Also, Lindy's is closed, so I can't eat Lindy's. They shut down because of COVID. I went to a place called Early's, which is like a cafeteria kind of, and it was pretty good. I mean, it was all right, but I appreciate it. He mentioned Chick-fil-A, so he can go suck a I see you, though. I appreciate you for watching, man. Thank you so much.
So, yeah, September 22nd, 1912, another old-timer, Eddie Collins steals 6 bases in a game. That is still a record, and he did it twice.
Wow. I didn't know that. I really didn't know that. Eddie Collins, by the way, folks, if you don't know him, look him up. The guy's a stud, arguably the best second baseman of all time. He's a stud, man.
Now, also on September 22nd, 1966, only 413 fans show up to Yankee Stadium for a game. Now, in Tampa, they call it a sellout.
Exactly. That's a huge crowd in Tampa, baby. Was there a reason? What year was it?
1966, and there was no reason listed, but I put it down there just so I can make fun of Tampa.
Yeah, I mean, I'm fine with that. I get it. I really would love to know. There had to have been something going on. Was there like a protest of the war or something?
Oh, there must have been, yeah. See, yeah. Love you, man. So Chago Bond says, love you, man. Talk to you later.
Appreciate it. I love you too, fam. Yeah, there had to have been something going on, but that's wild. That legit is a sellout at Tampa.
Now, this one is another trivia kind of one for you. I have September 22nd, 1969, Willie Mays becomes only the second player to hit 600 home runs. There are now 9 players with 600 home runs. How many of them do you think you know?
All right, let's do this. All right, so we got Albert Pujols, Hank Aaron. Damn, I don't know if he got there. Barry Bonds, obviously. Sammy Sosa. How many is that? That's 4.
That's 4. I'll give you Willie Mays because we just have Willie Mays.
Yeah, because I didn't think I needed to say him. Yeah, so there's 4 more total.
4 more. Yeah.
Damn, I don't know if he got there. Griffey Jr.?
Yep.
Oh, let's go.
It's 3 more.
Huh. Frank Thomas?
Nope.
Mark McGwire?
Nope.
I didn't think Mark was for sure. That was the first one that I said I don't think he was, and then I remembered Sammy Sosa. I mean, Babe Ruth?
Babe Ruth, yeah. This one.
I can't believe I forgot him, to be honest. I'm literally sitting, I'm like, did I even say Babe?
2 more.
Did Frank Robinson get there?
No.
And it's 600, right? Damn, I don't know.
Jim Tomei.
Ooh, sneaky Jim.
Yeah, and Alex Rodriguez.
See, I didn't think A-Rod got. I should have said A-Rod. Damn, I don't hate myself. 7 out of 9 is not terrible.
I think you would have hated yourself if you forgot Babe Ruth.
Yeah, for sure. I'd have definitely been like, "What? I can't believe I forgot Babe Ruth." I legit completely forgot him too. I was like, he doesn't even exist. Who the fuck is Babe Ruth? Oh, that's funny.
September 22nd, 1991, Don Shula gets win number 300. He ends up finishing his career with 328. George Halas has 318, and actively Bill Belichick has 274. Now, I know that Bill Belichick would love to pass Shula for all-time wins, but he's 44 wins away. I mean, we're talking 3 or 4 more seasons. I mean, is he going to coach that long?
I think so. I mean, how old was Shula when he retired?
I don't know, 75?
That's what I mean. And Bill's, what, 60? Is he?
I think so, 69, something somewhere. Yeah,
I thought his mother just died, and she was 88, so...
I don't know. I know that I think it's Carroll's 1 year older than him.
Okay. Pete Carroll's 67 then, I thought.
Okay, so then, so 66 then.
Okay, I could have sworn I could be wrong, but I thought Pete Carroll was 67. I think he's got plenty of time to do it. Now, without Tom Brady, that becomes a little different because now 10-win seasons aren't automatic. But, it looks like he's found his guy in Cam. I still think they only get about 7 or 8 wins this year. But, I mean, if you can go another 6 seasons and average 8 wins, you're going to take it over. So,
all right.
I think he gets there.
I'd like to see him pass him just because I know how much Shula hates Belichick.
Yeah.
And I think that's a mutual feeling. Yeah. And so I would love to see him pass Shula.
Just for spite.
And just say something at the press conference that really just rubbed it in. September 23rd, this is the last one I have, 1988, Jose Canseco becomes the first player to go 40-40. It's his MVP season. Obviously, 2 other players since then, A-Rod and Bonds, have both gone 40. And I have always said, and you can probably disagree with this because this is just maybe my fandom, how it gets to be. I've always said that if he stayed healthy, Bo Jackson could have been the first 50-50 guy.
I mean, it's hard to argue. It really is hard to argue.
As he kept going, as he was getting better,
50-50 is just such a crazy number to think about that feasibly it doesn't sound like it could happen. But, I mean, Bo would have been the one to do it for sure. I mean, his power-speed combination was insane. We talk, like you mentioned, the 3 other guys who have done it, and Bo was faster and stronger than all 3 of them. So, I mean, feasibly, I guess he could have done it. Do you think we'll ever see 40-40 again? I don't think.
Oh, yeah. Well, like I said, I mean, Acuna missed it at 3 home runs last year or something? I mean, he was close.
Yeah, but I just don't think people steal bases as much anymore. I don't know. It's just a thing that's kind of dying, in my opinion, but I'd love to see it. I think it's fantastic. Tatis and Acuna are the 2 guys that we have hope that can do it, I think, coming up. So,
yeah. And that'll lead us into our actual sports, talking about the scores, talking about the games. And basically, we're going to kick things off. I wanted to ask you about the NHL playoffs. I know you probably talked about it with Jesse on Monday, but I know we were talking early on when he said, all right, if it's the Stars and the Lightning, it's going to be just a pounding by the Lightning. And then the Stars came out 4-1 in Game 1. And then, of course, the Lightning bounced back 3-2, not quite as big a blowout in Game 2. It's 1-1. Do you still think it's going to be like 4-1, or do you think the Stars have enough to make this a 7-game series?
No, I think it'll be 4-1. If you remember, we started the Bruins series the same way. That Game 1 was such a rare game. So in a 28-minute span, Dallas had 4 shots. They scored 3 goals. That doesn't happen in hockey. It just doesn't. So nothing like that's probably going to happen again. We also hit 3 posts and 2 goalie skates. So, I mean, it was a much closer game than the scoreline depicts. However, I do think they're playing extremely good hockey as a team, and they're very difficult to beat. They're big, they're physical. As I mentioned before, their defense is insane. Elsa Lindell and John Klingberg are legit bona fide studs. They can legit lock your first line down. And so, we're relying on other guys, and luckily Lightning are deep, and I think we'll pull it out. I think we'll win the series 4-1.
All right. Getting into the
real quick, Stamkos was skating around, and there is a little hope he can play if the series goes deep. If we're up 3-1 in Game 5, I would expect to see him anyway as kind of like a
shift.
Yeah, kind of thing. But if we're late in the series and it's 3-2, 3-3, we need a win, I wouldn't be surprised if we saw Stamkos.
All right.
Yeah.
Heading over to my genre, the NBA, we've got the Los Angeles Lakers lose 114-106 of the Nuggets, but they're still up 2-1. LeBron has a triple-double doing his LeBron thing. Anthony Davis only 2 rebounds, which is kind of tough. He had 27 points, but really it was, Jokic did his thing. Murray busted my bubble because I said he wasn't going to score more than 22 the whole series, but Rondo let him get off. And then Jeremy Grant's what really killed him, 26 points for Jeremy Grant. So it's the supporting cast that kills you there.
Well, not just that. You mentioned Anthony Davis's 2 rebounds, and then JaVale McGee and Dwight Howard combined for 2 rebounds also. They had a total of 4 rebounds out of their center position. I mean, that just can't happen. You're going to lose every game that happens in. I mean, let's be real. I expect a bounce back in this series to end 4-1 too.
And I did hear you say Monday, and you were correct in assuming that I still think that Joel Embiid is better than Anthony Davis. I do think he is the best big man in basketball. I had this debate on Facebook as well, on this Facebook All Sports. I was saying, I think that he is the best big man. Now, we've talked a million times about how the best ability is availability, and he has very little availability. Plus, when he is available, probably 10% of the time he's just playing, not really caring.
Yeah.
But the other 90% of the time when he's available, he's ridiculously unstoppable.
So 60% of the time it works 100% of the time. No, I mean, there's no denying the kid's an exceptional talent. I don't think I've ever sat here and said that. But for one, even with all of his talents, I think Anthony Davis is the better player. I truly do. I do think Joel Embiid's post-scoring game is nothing we've seen since the likes of Hakeem, probably. I think his actual post moves and things like that, not just pure dominance, because Shaq just bullied guys. Joel Embiid has a lot of moves in his post game that work extremely well. But I think Anthony Davis' entire game is just better. I know Joel Embiid shoots threes. He doesn't shoot them better than Anthony Davis. So I just think that's kind of, and I think Anthony Davis is the far superior defensive player. So I think that's kind of where he takes the edge. Talent-wise, I don't argue with you.
Oh, got a little bit of a skip here, just in case you're listening. We got Sully's frozen up for a second. He'll be back. He says usually it has to go around a couple of times. Hey, there you are. So I was just going to say, leading into from that, we're going to go into the Celtics game, which is going to be tonight. I believe we've got their last game. This is what blew my mind. It was Saturday. Like, really, Saturday to Wednesday, they didn't have a single game. Like, what's up with that? That's weird, and I don't like it. I don't like it at all. It really kind of pissed me off. I don't know why the bubble decided. That doesn't make any sense. It doesn't make any sense. I mean, it's the Eastern Conference Finals. You'd think they'd play every other day or something. Exactly. And I mean, maybe they started before, so maybe they were just allowing the West to catch up, I guess. I don't know. Yeah, I know that I still like the Celtics to win the series. I know they're down 2-1, but I know, and you guys talked about it Monday, that the 2 games that they lost, they had double-digit leads going in the fourth quarter, both of them, and they just kind of blew those leads. They do win one, game 3. They're, to me, the better team. I mean, there's no reason they should lose. I think Jesse had mentioned that, Stevens is being out-coached. I actually agree with that. I don't know. I think that obviously you're losing that lead in the fourth quarter, and you can chalk that up to coaching your guys on how to play the fourth quarter. But in the same way that Celtics have been the better team for 80% of the series, I think that Stevens has still been the better coach for 80% of the series. It's just 20% of the time he's getting out-coached. But 20% of the time it's the most important time, which makes it 80% of the time. No, I mean, so I think, because I mentioned that too as well, on Monday, that the Celtics have been the better team for the majority of the series. They really have. They played the better basketball. It's just at certain times Miami has turned it on and been able to, I don't know, make the Celtics look awful, really look awful. And I don't know if it's a combination of Miami just hitting everything that they take and the Celtics missing everything they take, or the intensity level being stepped up, or I don't know what it really is, but I agreed with you I agreed with Jesse on Monday. I think Boston still takes the series as well. I said it's going to go 7 from the jump. I think it goes 7. But I mean, I think it's going to be a hard fought series, but I think Boston still takes it. I think they have the better roster and no players will come through. Now, the rumors came out after that last loss that Marcus Smart was throwing things around the locker room and screaming at his teammates. And I would have to go back and watch the end of game 2, because I know that Marcus Smart is very intense and he plays defense as hard as anybody in the league. He is all in on defense. And I think that if you're playing that hard on defense and you see guys like playing off their man who's hitting jumpers or whatever, like you're going to get pissed.
Well, so he's got to be frustrated. I mean, that's 2 games in a row. They went into the fourth quarter with a double-digit lead and blew. I mean, for a competitive guy, that's extremely frustrating, regardless of if you're singling somebody out because you think they weren't playing defense or whatever. Just the fact that you lost those games is so, like, gut-wrenching. You know what I mean? And Marcus Smart, his whole game is built around the intensity he plays, so he's going to carry that into the locker room. That's not surprising. And honestly, I love that shit. Like, I love to see when players hold other players accountable. Because that's the only way you get the best out of them, in my opinion.
You're like Lou Brown in Major League, right? Good, I like that kind of spirit in a player.
That was a decent voiceover right there.
All right, so now we're heading into what we're really looking forward to here, which is the NFL predictions. And I got some graphics for every game, and it's going to have the plus, and it's going to have the over-under. And we're going to talk about the game itself. I guess we'll talk about where we think it's going to end up. I wanted to start with our favorite teams, obviously. So the first game I have here – oh, no, I'm sorry, Thursday. We got the first game is Thursday.
It's Thursday, right? Okay, yeah.
So we got Miami Dolphins are 0-2. They're going up against the Jacksonville Jaguars, who are 1-1. Miami's getting 3 points, and the over-under is 47.5. And I think to myself, like, Miami getting 3, I mean, these are 2 crappy teams to me. I know that Jacksonville is 1-1. To me, these are 2 crappy teams. 47.5 seems like a lot of points for these 2 teams with basically backup quarterback starting, to put up.
Gardner Minshew's balling right now, bro.
Yeah.
That the only thing that worries me about this game, honestly, is because I agree. I think Jacksonville's bad. They're playing better than I think they are, but they're bad. Miami's really bad. But Jacksonville should be a bigger favorite, in my opinion. And the fact that they're not smells really fishy. And Vegas will do these kind of things. Vegas will know shit. And I don't know. This one smells fishy. It looks like jump all over Jacksonville, take the 3 or give up the 3 points and jump all over Jacksonville. I don't know though. I think Miami may sneak this one, but I'm still going Jacksonville. I'm taking Jacksonville and giving up the 3 points. And honestly, I'm taking the over too.
Wow. So let me ask you this. So let's say we talk about conspiracy theories. Vegas knows some stuff. Not everyone knows, right? Would it change your mind if the day before the game, Tua is named the starter?
Yes.
Okay. What do you think happens then?
The spread would probably go up, honestly, but I'd still think I'd take the Dolphins. Like they'd get more points at that point. It'd probably go up to 5.5, I think. Also, we'll see this game. Honestly, it's so early. Games get changed with the betting, and I think people are going to pound Jacksonville here, and so I think that may change some things. But right now, I've got Jacksonville -3, and I'm taking the over. Jacksonville scored 33. I really think that they're, last week against Tennessee specifically. So I really think they're a team that can score a lot of points. To be honest with you, I think they can put them up when they need to. I mean, they put up 27 against the Colts too. So,
all right. Well, I'll tell you what, I'm going to take Jacksonville as well, but I'm going under on that.
Like I said, I hate over-unders. So if you're really following for the bets, really just stick to the spread bets.
And then we get into your favorite team here. We've got the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, 1-1, going up against the 0-2 Broncos. They're giving up 6.5 points to the Broncos, and the over/under lower than the other game, 43.5 for this game.
See,
I understand that because I understand that Brady has not looked like Brady, and I understand that the Broncos now have a basically backup quarterback, and they've just signed Bortles to be the backup to the backup. I don't know. I guess to me, the 6.5, I think that Tampa Bay covers that. I don't think that Denver's backup quarterback, especially with Sutton out, isn't Courtland Sutton out?
Glad you said that.
Yeah, so he's out. Melvin Gordon's looks pretty good.
Doubtful.
What's that?
Philip Lindsay is doubtful with turf toe. He's probably not going to play.
Yeah, but he's kind of been just like an understudy to Gordon. I still think, though, that with Gordon in the back, they're going to stack the box against this backup quarterback, and they're going to stuff that run, make him throw the ball, and he doesn't have anybody to throw to. Hopefully Noah Fant, because he's in my fantasy.
Me too.
But I think that Tampa Bay covers the 6.5, and I think it's going to be over because I'm thinking 35-14 or something like that.
Yeah, that's why it's so low, is because of the backup quarterback situation. Now I'm trying to bring it up right now because I saw an interesting stat. There it is. Tom Brady's record at Mile High. Do you know it?
Ooh, how many games?
9.
3-6.
Very, very close. 2-7.
All right.
2-7. And I'm worried about that. I'm legit worried. I don't know if it's just, the thin air. I'm not really sure. But with the backup quarterback, with no Cortland Sutton, with no number 2 running back, and the way our secondary is playing right now, Carlton Davis is locking down teams' number 1s. I mean, shutting them down. And then Jamel Dean and Sean Murphy-Bunting are doing their thing. Antoine Winfield is being the player we thought he would. He had a sack strip fumble last week. I love our secondary, so I agree completely with you. I think we cover the 6.5, and the game's going to go over.
All right. That brings us to my team, which is the New England Patriots at 1-1 going in to play the 2-0 Las Vegas Raiders. The Raiders are actually getting 6 points from the Patriots, despite the better record. The over-under is 47.5. This is a tough one for me. I think that the Patriots cover the spread. I think that they cover the 6, and I think that they win. And the over-under, though, is tough because I think they win defensively. You know what I mean? So I'm thinking like a 23-20 game. I'm going to go under. I'm going to go Patriots and under.
Unfortunately, I love the Raiders this year. If you watched on Monday for the Monday night game, I actually told people to take the money line. Don't even take the points because the Raiders are going to win that game outright, and they did. But this is a little different. I think Bill Belichick's going to have a plan for Gruden. I think he's going to have a plan for this team, and I actually, unfortunately, think that the Patriots do cover, and I think it's under also. Hopefully we don't agree too much in this, but it really does make sense. Bill Belichick is gonna figure out a way to stop Derek Carr. He blitzes extremely well and plays great. I feel like zone coverage, and I think that's gonna hurt Derek Carr because all he likes to do is dink and dunk. So I think it'll be an issue.
You see, what I think though is that Bill Belichick loves to play man-to-man defense. He hates playing zone. He had to go zone.
Plays it really well. In my opinion.
I feel like he had to go zone against Seattle because Russell Wilson could run. You don't have to worry about that with Derek Carr, so you can go straight man-to-man, and I think that the Patriots' defensive backfield is good enough to play man-to-man against all those Raiders receivers.
You get Henry Ruggs, going across the middle, and you're trying to run behind him in man coverage. I don't like that matchup. That's really what it is. They run all these slants and crossing patterns and things like that. And I don't like man coverage chasing guys across the field is my only issue. But Bill Belichick's far smarter than I am defensively. So I'm not worried about him figuring out something.
I'm thinking Ruggs is 5'10" and basically is a rookie wide receiver. So I think he gets jammed at the line a lot this game.
He may. We'll see. He hasn't done the explosive things he's used to. We'll see who Stephon Gilmore, shadows. He normally shadows the bigger bodied receiver, regardless of kind of who's the number 1. So we'll see. It'll be a great matchup, but I agree with you.
Yeah. Next game I have on the docket here, we've got the Carolina Panthers 0-2, getting 6.5 against the Chargers 1-1, and Justin Herbert, who is coming off a pretty good game. Here's the thing about this game. Over-under is 44 on this one. So here's my take on this. I know that the Panthers are 0-2. I think Teddy Bridgewater has looked pretty good, and I don't feel like they're an 0-2 team. The Chargers at 1-1, I think, are more like an 0-2 team, and I would say that the Panthers are absolutely going to cover the spread. I think the Panthers win this game, and I would take the over. Actually, McCaffrey's out, right? Is McCaffrey out this week? All right, so that changes things. I'm still taking the Panthers. I think the Panthers are the better team. I'm taking them, and I'm going to go with the under now. Panthers and under.
I have the same thing. Panthers and under. I was more giving you the eye because are you really going to put the money line bet on them? Because that would be sick. I don't hate the money line bet. If you're risking an underdog this week, I think that's your matchup. Because I agree with everything you said. I don't care how good Justin Herbert looked. Now we have film on him, and preparing for a quarterback like Tyrod Taylor an entire week, and then literally 30 minutes before game time, you find out you're playing Justin Herbert, changes your entire game plan. It changes everything. So it's not surprising the Chiefs look, pretty bad. I don't think the Panthers are going to look like that. I think they're going to be ready. The Panthers defense is awful, but I do think it's going to be able to hold up against a rookie quarterback, and I fully expect the Panthers to cover and the under as well.
All right. So let's go on to our next game here. We've got the Chicago Bears 2-0, surprisingly 2-0, against the 0-2 Falcons, who get plus 4 points, and the over-under on this one's 47.5. Now, my take on this here is, again, the Bears, I like Trubisky. I don't love him. The Falcons have looked like absolute crap. I think I had them pegged going 3-13 or like 4-12 when we did our preseason things. I really don't like that team at all. I said, Matt Ryan's going to take a step back. He actually looked great week one, but
he looked great week two as well.
Yeah, see, I didn't see the stats. I saw week one,
he
had like 40
and 4 touchdowns or something like that.
All right, yeah. So I guess it's not really his fault, but that team is just trash. And Chicago, as much as I hate saying it, Brandon's right that they do have a good defense, and they do have a defense that can carry Mitch Trubisky, who I think if they're starting to play to his style of letting him kind of roll out of the pocket and hit those short like comebackers and hit the slant pass. I think that's his strength. Keep doing that. I think Chicago wins this game. Now, do they cover the spread? Let me just click on this here again. It's 4. They have to give up 4 to the Falcons. I say the Bears win, but they don't cover the spread. So I would take the Falcons and the 4 points, and I would go under.
Falcons money line, baby. You don't need no points. Falcons win this game outright. I don't care how good that defense is. You're not covering Julio Jones and Calvin Ridley and Hayden Hurst. I don't see it happening. The Falcons score points. It doesn't matter who they're playing against. They're going to score points. So I think, and I don't think Chicago can do that, is essentially what this comes down to. Trubisky's going to have a bad game eventually. This is going to be it, in my opinion. I got the Falcons outright.
47?
47. So I actually got to go under, I think, though, because I think it could end 30-13 or something like that.
Okay. And that then brings us to our next game, which we have the Cincinnati Bengals getting 5.5 from the Philadelphia Eagles. 46 is the over-under. Joe Burrows looks pretty good. Both these teams are pretty trash. I think, I guess, God, let me take a look at that line again. So, again, we've got plus 5.5 for the Bengals. Do they cover the 5.5? I think they get blown out by the Eagles. I really do. I still think Carson Wentz is solid. 46. I'm going to say Eagles and under. I'd say Eagles and under on this one.
I got the Eagles in the over. I think, the Eagles' offensive line is just atrocious. It's so bad. Losing Andre Dillard was such a huge loss. Then losing Big V to Detroit in the offseason was such a big loss. And they just don't have the depth there. But I don't think the Bengals have the defensive line talent to really kind of give them an issue. So I got the Eagles and the over.
All right. So far we're pretty close here.
Yeah.
The Seattle Seahawks, we've got 2-0. They are giving 5 points to the Dallas Cowboys at 1-1. 55.5 is the over-under on this one. So my take, I guess, on this game here, I like Seattle. I like what I saw against New England, but I also think that New England does not have nearly the weapons that Dallas has with the receiving core and the running back and the offensive line. And Dallas's defense is no sham either. New England's defense did okay against Seattle, but there is no way that the Dallas Cowboys don't cover that spread. Cowboys plus 5, I would take that all day long. 55.5, I'll go over on that. I think that both those teams score a lot of points. So I'll say Cowboys take the 5 and over. I go over.
I don't disagree with anything you said, but Russell Wilson looks like he's on a mission this year. I think that my head is telling me to take Dallas in the points, but my gut is telling me to go Russell Wilson and the Seahawks. So I'm going to go Russell Wilson, giving up the points, and definitely the over that game. That game, I mean, I don't really touch over-unders, but I mean, that game's definitely going over.
All right. We get the Arizona Cardinals at 2-0 are giving 5.5 to the Detroit Lions. 54.5 is the over-under in that game. And again, the Arizona Cardinals, this was a team that I think I had getting a wild card going like 12-4 or 13-3 12-4 and getting the wild card because I think that I had Seattle as winning the division. But I do think that, I mean, Kyler Murray looks fantastic and he's just doing whatever he wants. I think that the Lions look atrocious. Matt Patricia's gone. He is so gone. And so I'm going to say that the Cardinals cover the spread, and I would take the over because I would look for a 4-touchdown game here from Kyler Murray.
Agreed. I mean, 100%. Everything you said. The Lions look bad. We talked about it on Monday. I don't know how Matt Patricia is even still employed. It doesn't make sense to me. I get maybe they gave him a little leash because last year he lost Matt Stafford. But, I mean, they look bad. They look just as bad this year. They can't do anything right. The defense, and he's supposed to be a defensive specialist, I thought. They look awful. It's just not working out in Detroit, and they get blown out, I think. This game, it could be 45-10. I mean, like, shit, this game is going to get bad, I think. And I take the over also.
Now, let me ask you this question. If Patricia is fired, does he end up the defensive coordinator in Miami under Flores, who was his mentor?
He probably he gets the defensive coordinator job somewhere. Does he end up back in New England? I don't know how his relationship with Bill is. Does he go help Mike Vrabel out in Tennessee? You know, he's going to get a job. Everyone remembers how great he was as a defensive coordinator. Nobody's going to forget that. I mean, he's that's what he does well. You know, we talked about it on Monday. A lot of guys are good coordinators and terrible coaches. Josh McDaniels the perfect example. The guy's a terrible head coach, but I mean, as an offensive coordinator, there may not be one better. So, you know, find your lane. Matt Patricia needs to realize that he's a defensive coordinator, not a head coach.
Getting to the next game, we got the Green Bay Packers are actually getting 3 from the Saints, even though they're 2-0. The Saints are 1-1. The over/under that one's 51.5. Talk about two quarterbacks who can put up a lot of points and have been as these guys here. So I'm already taking the over. The question is Green Bay +3 over New Orleans. I mean, Drew Brees hasn't looked great, but he is great. And I don't know. I think Aaron Rodgers has been fantastic. Aaron Jones has been doing great. I'm going to take Green Bay. I'll take the points, Green Bay and the points, and I'm going to take the over because I think this is going to be like a 35-30 game.
Yeah, I mean, you have to take the over. Green Bay's given up 30, and they just gave up 21 to the Lions. So you got to take the over. But, yeah, I'm taking Green Bay in the points. Honestly, I'd take a money line. I think Green Bay's a much better team. New Orleans still without Michael Thomas. I know Green Bay's probably not going to have Devontae Adams, but I don't think that doesn't worry me as much because Aaron Jones is a baller right now. He's just playing out of his mind. So I'm going to go Green Bay and the over.
All right. I didn't realize how many games we got left here. So let's see. We get the Los Angeles Rams here are 2-0. They're getting 2 points from the 2-0 Buffalo Bills. The over-under on that one is 48. And, I mean, the Rams are 2-0, but they're a team, I don't know. Higbee looked really good last week. The Bills, I like the Bills' defense. I'm still not a huge Josh Allen guy because I still think he doesn't complete a ton of passes. I just don't love I actually
Josh Allen is the truth, bro.
I like Goff. So, let me see. If I'm going to take this, I'm probably going to go Rams in the points, and I'm going to take the under on this one.
Me too. Unfortunately, me too. I'm a giant Bills fan. I love them, honestly. I think they are incredible. I really, 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 really like Josh Allen. I don't know if they have an answer for Aaron Donald on the inside, though. I really think he's going to wreak havoc this game, and that's kind of what I'm leaning on. And I also think they have the secondary that can stop Josh Allen. But we'll see. I think this one's going to be one of the better games of the week. The Rams have outplayed their my initial thought on them. I think they're a much better team than I initially gave them credit for. Tyler Higbee's a baller. The kid is a monster. And that one's, I think, a sneaky win for the Rams.
All right. And then we get into the Jets are 0-2. They're getting 11 points to go up against the Colts, who are 1-1. The over-under is 43.5. So apparently Vegas doesn't think these teams are going to score a lot of points, but they think that New York needs a lot of points. New York's a team I like Darnold. I don't think that they're as bad as the 0-2. I don't know if the Colts are as bad as 1-1, but neither of these teams really does anything for me. I definitely don't think there's an 11-point difference between these two, so I would take the plus 11 in New York all day long because I don't think there's that big of a spread. The over-under, I mean, do these teams put up a lot of points when they play against each other? I don't think the Jets put up hardly any points, so I guess they're relying on the defense. So I'm going to take the under on this one, and I'm going to say the Jets take the 11, though.
I mean, there's a rule in sports betting, especially the NFL. If you get a double-digit spread, you take it. Most games do not, especially if you're a home dog, then you take it. Now, this is an away dog, but away games don't exist. There's no fans. So, I mean, that's why a lot of these spreads, I think, don't make a ton of sense to me personally. Like the last game, the Bears are a +2 spread because they're at home. Well, there's no home field advantage, so what the fuck's it matter? But I don't think the Jets are. I got to take the Colts here. I'm giving up the 11 points. I'm breaking my rule here. This one's going to come and bite me in the ass. I can already feel it. You never give up 11 points, but I'm giving up the 11 points and I'm taking the under. I just don't like the Jets organization at all. I don't like anything about it.
All right. Well, let's take a look at the Texans at 0-2 against the 2-0 Steelers, only getting 4 from that Steelers team, whose defense is pretty solid, but I guess the Texans haven't looked completely horrendous. 45 is the over-under on this one here. I think the Steelers beat them, and I think they cover the spread, so I would take the Steelers. Let me take a look at the over-under again here. 45, 25, 20. I would take the over. So I'm going to say Pittsburgh, take Pittsburgh and give up the 4 and take the over.
Exactly, agree. 100%. Pittsburgh's for real. People were trying to feel like Pittsburgh's the team that, was a crappy team last year, but Pittsburgh's for real. They're really good. I really like their team. Their defense it's a bad matchup, I think, for Houston in that defense, or in that offense. So, yeah, I think, take the Steelers, give up the points, and then take the over.
Yeah. We've got the New York Football Giants at getting 4 points from the 49ers, who basically have a JV team out there now.
Right, versus San Francisco injuries.
That's right. The over-under of 41.
Just avoid this game, folks.
This game is nuts. And it was Saquon Barkley done for the year. That killed a lot of fantasy teams, huh?
Sterling Shepard's out for 2 or 3 weeks. Like, there's so much going on with both these teams that, like, honestly, just avoid it.
Yeah.
If you're betting
I still think San Fran's still the better team. I think that they cover the 4. I think New York. This could be a shutout. I think New York's going to get absolutely pummeled. I've never mentioned. I think I've mentioned it before. I don't like Daniel Jones, so I'm going to say take San Francisco, give up the points. The 41. I'm going to go under because, like I said, I think it's going to be a shutout, and it's probably going to be like 23-0.
Shit. You have to take San Francisco here, I guess. They're going to run the ball a lot, and New York doesn't really have a good run defense, so it's not. They've got essentially nothing at linebackers, so you've got really nothing to be worried about. I don't think they're going to get shut out, but I take the under also. This game could easily be 14-7 or 14-3 or something like that. This could be a terrible game.
It's going to be a terrible game.
It's going to be so bad.
2 games to go on the docket here. I've got the Tennessee Titans at 2-0, giving up 2.5 to the 0-2 Minnesota Vikings, over under 47.5. Ryan Tannehill looks really good. He looks really accurate. Hitting the tight end, his receivers look like they're doing pretty good. Derrick Henry obviously is always a horse. Kirk Cousins, I think, looks really bad. And
Shocker.
That's why it surprised me they're only giving him 2.5. So I'm gonna say
really be 5.5 because they're at home.
Okay, well, I'm gonna say I'm gonna say just take Tennessee and give up the points and the over under of 47.5. Let's see, 24. I'm gonna take under on this one. I think these are both more run teams than they are pass teams, so I'm gonna say under.
I agree. I mean, if the spread should be 5.5 or 6 if you want my honest opinion, but if they're at home, so they're giving them credit for that. That's like 3 points essentially in the betting world. So it's odd to me that they're even doing that. But yeah, Tennessee covers the 2.5, I think, pretty easily, although this looks like a trap game. And I think they go over. Minnesota's defense is atrocious. It's arguably the worst defense in the league. They lost their entire secondary pretty much, cornerback wise. And they're hurting back there. They can't stop anybody. So yeah, I think Tennessee in the over for me.
All right. And the last game I have in here is I have the Washington football team at 1-1 getting 7 from the Cleveland Browns. Well, I didn't do the Monday night game.
Oh, because we'll do that Monday. That's right. You're so smart, Wayne. You're so smart.
So the Browns at 1-1, giving up 7 points, over under 44. The Washington football team, I'm surprised they're getting 7 here. They haven't looked that bad. They actually look okay. I know that they're on paper they look bad, but like their play okay, and their defense is okay. I mean, they have a good pass rush. I would absolutely take them in the 7 because I don't think Cleveland looks great. They're a team that I don't think looks phenomenal. They've got a lot of weapons. I don't think San Francisco scores a lot of points. That's my only concern. So if I'm guessing that the Redskins cover the spread, but it's a lower scoring game, I'm probably going to go Redskins take the 7, but under on the 44.
Man, we agree. I'm going to take Redskins take the 7. Jedrick Wills, while he's looked decent, he's been getting abused in pass rushing sets. And I think that continues. And like you said, I think that's kind of what makes the difference here. I think Washington's pass rush kind of disrupts everything that the Browns want to do. But the Browns do have a pretty decent run game, so I think it'll be a lot closer. But I think the Browns win the game, but the Redskins cover the spread, and then I take the under as well.
All right, and that kind of covers up our week. Now we get to our favorite Infinity 5. We talked about this before the show a little bit, but basically we talked about coaching changes, and these are 5 coaches that we would like to see at the professional ranks. Like, we would love to see these people as coaches. And to give you an idea of what I'm talking about, this one's kind of a personal one. I mentioned this one to Sully before we started. My number 5 is Ryan Day, the Ohio State Buckeyes head coach, because I played football against Ryan Day in high school. I played at Concord High School. He played at Manchester Central. We played them homecoming my junior year. They were up 42-0 at halftime. They won 49-7 because they put their JV team in the second half. But he was the Gatorade high school football player of the year for New Hampshire 2 years in a row. Went to UNH, played for Chip Kelly, and he ended up on Urban Meyer's staff and became the head coach at Ohio State. But I would like to see him get a head coaching job because that way I can say, hey, I played against that guy.
I like it. You know what I mean? These are all going to be a little, I think personal, except the one I stole from you, because she deserves her right. And that's Becky Hammon. I would love to see her coach. I think everyone in the league would like to see her coach. I think she's earned it. The players respect her. So that would be my number 5. I'd love to see her coach. Admittedly, you did tell me you had her on the list, so I stole her from you, but that's because I think she deserves a double mention, if we're being honest. She's probably the number 1 NBA coach I think that deserves a shot.
For sure. And I think that even going against kind of like what I was talking about earlier, where I was talking about, women and men in sports, I do think that Becky Hammon could open so many doors, because I think that women should be able to coach men's college basketball, men's high school basketball, and pros if they know the game. And she knows the game. She's studied under Greg Popovich. She's got no better tutor.
Exactly. And she is a true student of the game. You know what I mean? Like, she went out there and actually studied a lot of it and things like that. So, I'd love to see her. She needs her dues.
Now, my number 4, again, this one's a personal favorite. He's currently a player, so he's not even retired yet, but I would love to see him as a manager in the European Soccer League, and that is Zlatan Ibrahimovic. I think he would be the most hilarious manager. Just the quotes, the press conferences, every game would be absolutely hysterical.
His ego is far too big. He'd be out there and he'd be like, why can't you just do it like me? Like, I can do it. Why can't you fucking do it, bro?
He would absolutely in press conferences say, they'd say, oh, well, do you think you have a chance against whatever, like Borussia Dortmund, whoever he's, do you have a chance against those guys? He goes, well, I might have to suit up and play for this one.
Yeah,
and we'll
exactly.
Win
like 100% he would. There's no way he would, man. That's ridiculous. My number 4 is Dabo Swinney. I'd love to see the guy coach in the league. I think he's an incredibly smart gentleman. I think he runs his program incredibly well. I think he has a solid, just all-around game. I think he understands the game very well, so I'd love to see him in the pro ranks. Most of the time, college coaches don't do well. I think he's one of the rare ones that I think would do pretty well.
Yeah, and I know we talked about it a little bit before we got into it, and I was saying, like, of all the college coaches, I mean, Urban Meyer's a guy I would really like to see from the college ranks into the pros. I don't know how he would do, but I would like to see him. My number 3 actually is a guy, a very nice guy. Unlike Zlatan, this is somebody who's actually really likable. I like Zlatan because of how unlikable he is. But this is a guy who is America's sweetheart, and I would love to see him become a Major League Baseball manager, and that's Cal Ripken Jr. I think would be the Orioles manager would be fantastic.
That's a really good one. I like that one a lot, actually. That'd be a really cool one. My number 3 is another one I stole from you.
All right.
But I mean, it's pretty obvious. I think it's Coach K. I think I'd love to see him. He needs to. It's been long enough. I really truly hope we do end up seeing it. I mean, he just needs to. Like, you'll mention more of the reasons. I'll let you give it, but yeah, I'd love to see Coach K.
Yeah, for sure. And like you said, you stole a couple of mine. And actually, those are my 2 and my 1. But yeah. My number 2 is Becky Hammon. We already talked about it. I'd love to see her get that head coaching job, open those doors. I'd love to see more female coaches. We're seeing it in the NFL now, female assistant coaches. But it's just we see so many male coaches at the WNBA or the female college level, and I think it's only fair that we should have female coaches at the male level. And like I said, if they know the game, and she does, she was a 3,000-point scorer in college, and she played in the WNBA, and now she's learned under Tim Duncan and Greg Popovich. There's no better way to learn. People like that deserve a shot, and so I would really love to see her kind of open that door and get a few more female head coaches in there.
Yeah, no, I'd love to see that as well. I think it'd be fantastic. We agree 100% wholeheartedly there. My number 2 is I'd love to see Ken Griffey Jr. come up and coach. Again, I don't know if he'd be good enough to or anything like that, because I don't know how much of a student of the game he was. But he's just a personal favorite of mine, so I'd love to see him either coach the Reds or the Mariners. I initially had Pete Rose on my list, but the ban obviously hurts that. If they somehow could get rid of his ban and then he can come back and manage, I think that'd be dope, because he was already a pretty successful manager during his stint. So.
Yeah, Griffey. I could see Griffey being like a hitting coach, but like I said, I don't know how he'd do as a manager. I never really got that like cerebral feel from him. I'm not saying he's dumb, but I never got that feeling like he's like, oh, I understand.
Well, he was more of just a natural kind of athlete, went out there and swung and was able to do things very gifted naturally. So I agree. I don't know if he was more of like a student of the game and where he had to, really learn how to hit and do everything right, or if it just came naturally. But again, he's just more of he's my favorite player, of my generation. So,
Well, you know what I think it is? I think it's because he looked like he was having fun out there.
Yeah.
And so you don't assume those players can be like Frank Thomas was a great athlete, but Frank Thomas had that commanding presence. I could see him being a manager and be like, yo, knock it off. And whereas Griffey just seemed like playful. I don't know if people would respect him in the dugout,
I mean, Joe Madden's very playful. You never really see him scowl, but I mean, I agree. But he may just be a player's coach, who knows?
Yeah. My number 1 is Coach K. Like you said, Coach K did coach several of the USA basketball teams. He coached Kobe. Kobe had always said that other than Phil Jackson, that's the only head coach he ever wanted to play for. I actually thought before his passing, and every time I talk about it, I still get pissed off that it happened. But I always thought that Kobe Bryant was going to end up succeeding Coach K at Duke. I always thought that he was going to be the head coach, because Kobe has that mentality, like he's just so smart, like Steve Nash, just so smart. But to get away from that, so Coach K had coached him on the USA team. He's coached NBA players. Coach K was an assistant coach on the original Dream Team with Michael Jordan and Charles Barkley. So he's been around NBA players. I think it would be such a smooth transition for him to take over any team in the league. And immediately I'd think, all right, well, that's even if it's the worst team, who's the worst team right now? I mean, not Golden State, they don't really count. But let's say like a Sacramento. If you put Coach K at the head of Sacramento, I'd be like, dude, that's a 7 or 8 to 6 seed right now.
Yeah, I mean, I don't disagree with you there. I think he has the track record to make it work. He also has the respect from all these other people, and I think that's where a lot of these college coaches lack, is the respect from these NBA players. But Coach K is an infinite source of knowledge, so all of these players would respect him, and I 100% agree. My number 1 is, no shock if you're a friend of mine, but I would pull Sir Alex Ferguson out of retirement and throw him right back on that Manchester United team, and we'd win all the titles in the entire fucking world like we used to. The day he left was the saddest day of my life. We just essentially fell off a cliff once he retired. We've never been the same team since, and I want him back. I want you back, Sir Alex. I want you back.
All right. Well, I guess that's kind of like me wanting Phil Jackson back to the Lakers. Like, come on, man.
Like, come on, man. This is your home. You don't like your home?
Well, let me ask you, and we may have discussed this on a previous show, but speaking of coaches and Phil Jackson and the Lakers, right? A lot of people obviously give LeBron crap about the whole 3-6 in the finals and his record and all that stuff.
He made 9 finals, and they give him crap.
He made 9. I do contend, though, that had LeBron played his entire career or a majority of his career under Phil Jackson, he might have 8.
I don't think that's crazy. I really don't. I don't think that's crazy to say. If he would have done it with any great coach, I think. But Phil especially, I agree, because for one, Phil has the pull to like make a lot of things happen around the league too. Like I think he'd have gotten a superstar for LeBron to play with and things like that much earlier in his career. So I don't disagree with that whatsoever.
Well, Phil knew what buttons to push to get the most out of you. And I think that he would have gotten the most out of LeBron has been fortunate in his mind, I guess, to play for coaches who've allowed him to run the team, to run it on the floor, to run it in the background when it comes to picking up other players. Like coaches have just been puppets. Spoelstra was the first one who wasn't, because Riley said, no, he's got my full backing. You got to do whatever he says. But Spoelstra didn't have the swagger of a Phil Jackson. No. And I think that if you had like a Phil Jackson with LeBron James his whole career, somebody that LeBron knew he couldn't steamroll, but also somebody who knew exactly how to make LeBron do what he wanted, I think you would have seen that whatever it was, the 2016 finals LeBron, you would have seen that every season of his career.
Every game, yeah. And I think that's what's disappointing to most LeBron fans is you see him play that way and then you wonder why he doesn't play that way all the time.
So that covers our show. We appreciate you sticking with us. Like I said, it's all hour and 15 minutes. So that's why you got to go check us out on YouTube because the whole video is there. Check out the audio, iTunes, Spotify, and Stitcher. Because if you listen tomorrow, you're not going to hear the whole thing. So you're going to miss out on some really good stuff. And make sure you make your bets. Obviously, me and Sully pretty much agree on all the games with a couple of disagreements. So it's not going to be very interesting when we tally it all up. But hopefully we get some good games. Like we said, stay away from the Giants and 49ers. Do not watch that.
Don't even care about it. Just pretend it's not happening.
Go stare into the sun. Yeah. Other than that, though, I think that's pretty much covers our thing. I think it's my turn to throw it to. So, hey, Kenny, I was curious. What's up, man?